You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
And I'm Evan Closky.
No Ulysses Sembrano today. I guess
He's
we
out.
are rotating conversations with Evan Closky because Ulysses and you did a show last week, and now it's you and I this week. But hopefully we'll get the full gang together before the season is over. We are the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your very first listen every day. Be sure to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays, and email us anytime, lockedonrays@gmail.com. All right, Evan. The Rays have a important series this coming weekend against the Yankees. But before we get to that, I want to get your thoughts and viewpoints. And if there's anything you learned about the Rays over a very emotional up and down 4-gamer versus the Angels, where you have crazy games, close wins, close losses, just a little bit of everything between Monday and Thursday.
The one thing I learned is you're going to have to wait until the very final out before you have an outburst against this team. Not for the faint of heart. Certainly a team that's given many fans gray hairs. On one hand, what I'm learning is this team, considering the amount of injuries they have and what we've been preaching for a while now, is performing like the team I thought they would be. While certain players are not performing like I thought they would be, where their record is and kind of the inconsistencies, they haven't gone on a slide. They haven't gone on a big winning streak. They've pretty much just been hovering a little north of 500. And so we're pretty much getting the returns we thought. It looks a little bit different, but yeah, a team that doesn't really have the power. They're a little faster than we saw last year. They're going to have days where they are completely inept at the plate, and you just have to. I do like the spunk.
Yes,
Now the bullpen blowing up as often as they do is very surprising. I think that's the biggest negative takeaway. I do believe that's going to correct itself as the season goes on. Last year, if you remember, April, May, it was kind of like this. Everyone brings up Bob Stevenson. You got to remember, they didn't have Bob Stevenson to start last year. They acquired him, I think, in May. Why did they acquire him? Because the bullpen wasn't as sexy as they thought. They made a move. They brought in a guy like Bob. And if I get another tweet about, this is what happens when you let Bob Stevenson go. He signed a 3-year, $33 million contract. He hasn't pitched an inning for the Angels because he's hurt right now. Right. He went on a rehab assignment, got re-injured. And I love Bob, but the Rays have made a handful of Bob Stevensons in the past. There's no reason to believe that they're not going to do that again this year. They're evaluating. Even like Garrett Clevenger, who I've said openly is, at the beginning of the season did not look like a guy you can ever throw out there in a high leverage situation. He just isn't in midseason form yet. He's starting to look better. His stuff is starting to tick up. So there has to be some patience involved in this process. But through 20 games, they are an up and down group, and that was probably what we expected entering. If you would have told me, what are my thoughts on April 19th, I probably would have said this is going to be a 500 team on April 19th. So they're 2 games better than that.
Before we move on to the Rays facing the Yankees, if there's a situation in the future where a runner is in scoring position and there's an open base, should the Rays ever pitch to Mike Trout?
No, I think, look, I give Cash and Snides credit because they're not giving in, right? That's part of their mentality. We believe our best stuff beats your best stuff. You should be giving in to Mike Trout. It just, and look, I mean, Maton gave up a slew of hits after that home run to where things might have went sideways anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just no way you can pitch to Trout late in ball games with a base open, up a run, tied, whatever it might be. It just, he's not the guy that, if you get beat by Ward, I'm okay with that. Like if you give up a double to Ward and you lose the lead because to me, I'm just not that upset about it. Maybe other people, I mean, I'm certain when it happens, people are going to be ticked off, but to me, I'm okay with that, right? If you walk Mike Trout and you get burned, I can live with that decision. I can't live with the decision of pitching to him and watching a 2-run homer go over the fence and then ask yourself, why did I just do that? So, I mean, I think that the heartbreaking thing is for probably some fans is look, they completely stole a game with the Caballero triple. So remember, everything kind of equals out. You're going to steal some games, you're going to lose some games. Fairbanks blew the win against the Angels. He blew the win against the Rockies. And then Maton coughed it up in the first loss in the Trop against the Angels. I mean, those are 3 wins right there in your bag. We can talk about kind of the 2-1 wins that the Rays have snuck away with. And then I can counterbalance it. But you would like to have thought that given what we've seen so far that maybe the Rays should have like one more win.
Right. But who would have thought that 2 of the team's highest paid relievers are in the dumper a little bit to this point. So
I'm still team Maton, as I said. It was a really unfortunate time to stink it up. But his stuff doesn't look that bad. I am and I believe in Pete long term, but to me, it's getting to the point where if you don't throw strikes, you're getting demoted. Like it just too many walks. Like, so if you forget about hits, if you gave up hits, that's one thing, but like the Rockies outing, when you're walking 3 guys, when you walk a guy in the blown save to the Angels, that run is essentially what lost you the game.
Right.
Not the hits. It would have been in extra innings, but it's the walk guy, that scored. So to me, if you're not challenging batters and you're walking batters, that's more infuriating than getting popped left and right and balls flying all over the outfield, in my opinion.
That's fair. All right, we have more to discuss, but first we have to tell you this. It is playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get 150 buckaroos in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150. Win or lose, you can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead, visit FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, they are America's #1 sportsbook. All right, Evan. So the Rays at 11-9 right now go up to the Bronx to face the Yankees, who are 13-6. Their pitching staff seems to be doing okay with Garrett Cole, thanks to one Marcus Stroman. The offense is doing a solid job, even though guys like Judge, Rizzo, and Torres haven't heated up yet. What are you looking for, and what are your expectations for the good guys against the Yankees?
Look, win a game. You have to win one in this series. I think if you lose 2 of 3, I'm not too worried about that personally. On the road in the Bronx, they're a fairly hot team. The Yankees are going to regress to the median of what we saw last year. They were not as bad as they were. Like, they should not have been that bad last year. And so that's going to correct itself this year, most likely. Just like, I always use like 2022, the Rays offense was not as bad as it should have been. And then it corrected itself in 2023, certainly for the first couple of months. Right. So I think you want to see I just want to see A, improvement in walks, B, again, one win. Eflin's going to go in a series. Can he perform on the road? That's always been the knock on him. So, and finally, if you have a lead and you're nursing it at the end of the game, like, can your bullpen continue to hold down leads? Because they're not going to be given much by this offense. They're just not. Like,
Yeah.
Yandy pulled a couple of balls there at the end of that Angel series. I'm hoping that starts to get him around. If I see another ground ball to second base from Yandy, like, it's insane how he's a tick off. So the fact that he's turned on some and he's pulled them, to me, that's a good sign. We might not see like the 20 home runs or whatever from Yandy again, right? That might have been a little bit of an aberration.
He had his career year last year.
Yeah, but the whole point with Yandy is average more than power. The power might have been like what it just clicked last year, right? But we still expect him to hit for average. That and I'm hoping that maybe, the bright lights, big city gets Randy going. Randy actually his peripherals don't look as bad as I thought they were going to look when I went on Baseball Savant. I think he is struggling a little bit with pitch recognition, a little bit of not swinging at the right pitch, swinging at the wrong pitch. And then right now he's just kind of like he started off that first series really well. And now he's just kind of like in his head, it seems like. So I don't know. I mean,
I guess to look at it as at another angle is even with Yandy and Randy struggling, you've got other contributions. There's other guys that are stepping up to the plate, so to speak, and delivering from Rosario to Caballero. I mean, there's guys. It's not like it's not like the Rays only go as Yandy and Randy go.
The best part of like these Rays games, oddly enough, have been like hitters 5 through 7. Like that's where they start generating things. And historically, that's been strikeout city. But, I don't know where this team would be without Cabby and Ahmed Rosario. And that's the crazy part, because at some point, that well is going to dry up, right? They're going to hit a monster snap. It just naturally, it's going to happen. They are not built to be high, mid 300 hitters here.
Right.
But, at least with Cabby, he provides the defense. Ahmed Rosario doesn't look smooth out there in the outfield. He's it's a little bit tricky for him. And maybe that's just playing in the Trop as well. Not fun learning how to play the outfield and then learn it in the Trop.
That's an adjustment.
Yeah. But, you would hope that when that well dries up, the Yandy and Randy well is going to swell. Yeah. So that's really, you're really there's complementary pieces to this offense right now where, you think back to last year, and in April, everybody was hot. And in July, everyone was cold. Right now, you're kind of getting mixing and matching, which to me is good balance. You don't want, it's nice when everyone's hot at one time and you can rattle off like 7 wins in a row.
Right.
It's good cushion. But you do want balance of where you're spreading out people's cold snaps with people's heaters, and you can really work through it together. So again, Josh Lowe is rehabbing. He started his rehab assignment in Durham after a rainout on Thursday, started up on Friday. That's good news. They desperately not only need his talent, but they need his left-handed bat. And hopefully, Aranda will get started soon. Walls will get started soon. Slowly, and not that Walls is a big savior here with the bat, but slowly but surely, the Rays are going to look like the team that they built at the beginning of the season versus this Scotch tape and bubble gum that they needed to, hang to get. Love Austin Shenton. He really needs to be down in Durham getting more at bats.
It's really unfair to him. It's the situation. I just don't think
they need the lefty bat. It just is, it is what. Not that this is any whatever Shenton's stint up here is. I have zero analysis on it. I don't judge him for it. He had limited opportunity. If you want to stay up, you got to make the most of it. He hasn't. Oh well. He was never supposed to be a part of this roster. He was sent down, brought back up after the Aranda injury. Nico Goodrum is probably once Lowe comes back, I would imagine that you're going to send Shenton down. You know, I know they don't really have like the first base flexibility. It doesn't really fix like their backup first base options, but
right.
I imagine they can kind of grunt through it. It's just, you know, as far as like prospect development, you know, it would be nice for Shenton to get regular at bats, start getting in a groove like he did last year in the minors, and then you can bring him up when he starts feeling like himself.
If your goal is to win and make the playoffs, it's better to have Goodrum on the bench than Austin Shenton on the bench, I think, just based on the experience.
Yeah, and we'll
factor.
see. Yeah, and it could change. I mean, that could change throughout the season. But, you know, that's, I mean, for now, it's just, you know, they got Goodrum to really be the, like, oh, Brandon Lau gets hurt, let's bring up Goodrum, right? I mean, like that, they sort of built that into the plans of him being, you know, if you have a 26-man roster, him kind of being 27. It's the other injuries where you go into 28, 29. So there are just some people on this roster who are having to step up. And, you know, not that, I mean, Austin Shenton was a big part of one of those wins in Colorado. So I'm not throwing dirt on his name. I'm just simply saying that there are people on this team who probably are more well positioned to get some playing time in Durham before they're really supposed to be regular staples in the major league lineup.
That's fair. Another footnote on this series, and I'm sure you've heard, you're always soaking up sports related news and commentary. The retirement of John Sterling, legendary Yankees broadcaster at 85 years old. I don't know when he officially retired, when he actually stepped down, but I saw a bunch of news.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. The Rays series is going to be his last series.
Yeah. So this is his last series. So
yep.
I ask you, what is your take on John Sterling? Is he a legend? Is he a hack? Is he a clown? Is he a little bit of both? Is he an institution? What is he?
Yeah, I mean, he's a legend. He's an institution. He's all those things. I mean, look, was he the best play-by-play guy? No, he was certainly. I mean, the best part of when he, you know, the retirement announcement came was everyone posting the videos of it is high, it is far, it is gone, and him like midway through his home run call, and it's like Stanton, he's standing on first base. What did I miss? What did I miss? You know, I mean,
that was the biggest thing with him. One of the biggest things of the listeners couldn't tell the difference between a home run and a routine fly ball, and or they didn't know what was going on half the time in the game.
It was very confusing at points. For sure. There's a little bit of an entertainment factor, but this is also a guy that I think until last year, like, didn't miss a game like for decades or something like it's some crazy streak. Like he like rarely missed any time. You know, he wasn't like there was a stuff like the White Sox announcers where put it the board. Yes. And like they're homers, you know, Sterling wasn't like so much of the homerish variety. Maybe you can put him into the hokey category, but what he did was memorable. I mean, his voice spans generations of Yankees baseball, one of the best institutions in all of sports, certainly one of the most historic. And there should be a great appreciation for what John Sterling has done in this profession. Has he missed some calls? Absolutely. Right. But he is, you know, certainly legends like him are few and far between in the game of baseball. Certainly I'm not putting him right next to Vin Scully, but he has my respect, and you know, he'll be missed. That's for sure. You know, they got Susan still over there who provides entertainment as well. Yes. She's also an institution and a great part of Yankees history. But yeah, it's you know, congrats on a great career for John Sterling, and you know, I hope that he's able to enjoy you know, a quieter life now after really putting his heart and soul into baseball and Major League Baseball for the majority of his life.
Yeah, he certainly was able to call be a part of some amazing moments for the Yankees. I mean, every at bat of Derek Jeter, every inning of Mariano Rivera, all the rings. I mean, hard to take that for granted for sure. We have more to discuss, but first we have to tell the listeners something important, and that is Prize Picks. Spring training is over, of course, and baseball's season is underway. It's been that way for several weeks now, so don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Pick entries, whether it's strikeouts, RBI, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Prize Picks, it is the best way to get in on the action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, Georgia, and more. So go ahead, download the app today and use code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, Evan, I have to apologize. I did not listen to the episode that you and Ulysses did last Friday. So enlighten me. Did you all happen to do a Closky on the clock?
We did. The only snafu was I thought it was a minute for all the questions he was asking. So he asked me a question, and I answered it in like 7 seconds. And he was like, well, that was quick. And I was like, okay. Oh, I thought you were going to ask me more. So it was one question, 1 minute.
Okay, so let's set the ground rules. I will throw a question to you. You have 60 seconds to answer that question. I'll throw another question to you. You have 60 seconds to answer that question. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now
okay.
It does.
All right. So without further ado, Closky on the clock.
Closky on the clock.
Closky on the clock.
Closky on the clock here. Closky on the clock.
Closky on the clock.
Closky on.
Play the whole thing. Ulysses went a little bit overboard with the editing. 15 seconds. All right. First one. Give me a scenario where the Rays stadium deal doesn't get completed.
The scenario is pretty simple, right? The fact that the noise from taxpayers and people who are going to feel the burden a little bit of paying for Tropicana Field reaches the council members. The council members aren't comfortable with the amount of money they have to put up in the deal, and that's going to be the end of that. So, I've always said this: until a shovel is in the ground, I'm not going to be all in on believing that the Rays are here. Having said that, there still seems to be strong wind that the mayor has the votes that he needs. They feel confident he has the votes needed. And if Stu and company need to massage this deal a little bit more towards the end, I imagine they're going to do it, because I do not believe they're going to have a better deal than what they have in St. Pete. But there are certainly opposing viewpoints into building that stadium and putting the amount of money necessary. So all it takes is 1 or 2 votes, and that thing is donezo.
All right. I think I gave you a little bit of
I thought it was supposed to be the clock
more
on
than
there.
60 seconds, but
I need the clock. I need the clock.
I know. Well, if I do the clock here, then it covers the whole. I mean, I can do that. You want that?
Sure, throw it up there.
Okay. Well,
nobody's got to see my face.
The next couple questions. All right. The Rays team MVP to this point is whom and why?
The Rays MVP to this point is Jose Caballero. I think it's a pretty close argument with Ahmed Rosario, but Cabby's stepping into an impossible situation of trying to assume the position that Wander Franco left behind last season, and it seems like permanently. They really had to make a fly in the offseason of bringing somebody who can hopefully provide good enough defense at the bare minimum. The fact that he's brought the hitting prowess, the clutch moments, the intensity, the spark, the energy. There's a lot that he's been doing kind of off the field with, I think he's a little bit infectious, and he's provided some amazing moments for this team in the first 20 games of the season. So I'm going to go with Jose Caballero. He's been an amazing surprise, and right now, my MVP on the Rays.
Very good. I would agree with you. And at the end of the year, he could lead the team in stolen bases. He could also lead the team in hit by pitches, and he could be, 3-WAR player maybe?
Well,
is that too crazy to think?
It's possible. The biggest thing that we've seen from him is the Rays have told him to swing away. Usually he was kind of a walk guy, and they're like, no, we want you to swing. It's kind of the reverse. They're telling Jose, hey, Siri, don't swing.
Oh my gosh, there was one game I lost track of all.
What if you don't swing?
Yeah, I lost track of all the minutia with the Angels series, but there was a game there where he was just swinging at sliders down and away, way off the plate like crazy. He thought he was Vladdy Guerrero or something, but that's kind of his modus operandi.
It's always been him. And we can get into a Jose Siri kind of discussion once we get a little more games under our belt. I think the selectivity has been great to see. You are trading a little bit of his pop for it because I think that his patience is burning him at times. Eventually, pitchers are going to adjust. There are some teams that are still throwing him outside the zone and he's taking the walks. Go back to the Texas series. There are teams that are just going to throw him right down the middle and know that he's been told to take a pitch. And usually when he falls behind and counts, he gets into some really big trouble.
Yeah. But he definitely is helping out defensively and on the base.
That's all he needs to do, to be honest. Like, you keep playing the defense you are. I'm cool with whatever you do at the plate.
What he did in that 13th inning outing, oh my gosh, that was an amazing play. All right, we talked about Caballero, team MVP to this point, 20 games in. The most disappointing Rays player to this point is whom and why?
The most disappointing player I'm going to give to Yandy Diaz. Not to say that he's not going to turn it around, but at this point, I have extremely high expectations for Yandy Diaz. This is somebody who was arguably the MVP last year. Obviously, he didn't win it, but I think some people can make a strong argument. And for him, not only has he not hit, he's come up in a handful of clutch scenarios and has not delivered, which is unlike him. So, look, heavy laid the crown. Randy, I expect slumps from. We're getting one out of the gates. Not that we're used to that from Randy, but I know that twice in a season at minimum, Randy's going to just be really bad. Yandy, I don't expect to be as bad as he's been through 20 games. So I expect him to rebound at some point, but I put a lot of pressure on him. I know he does too. Yandy Diaz is my pick.
All right. Oh, I accidentally clicked that. Okay. Develop an argument on why Pete Fairbanks should no longer be the closer.
Command. I mean, if you're going to make me give you a reason of why he should no longer be the closer, it's because he's not hitting his spots. I mean, as I mentioned before, it's one thing to kind of miss around the plate and get peppered a bit, but he's walking too many guys. I think 7 innings, 7 walks. You can't be a closer and give free passes like that. You are going to inevitably, in pressure spots, give up games that way. You need pitchers in the 8th and the 9th inning to throw it over the plate and have the nasty stuff on the team. We know that Pete has the stuff. It's just not there right now. Judging by his post-game comments recently, seems like the confidence is a little shaken. So if you want him to take a step back, get into some lower lever spots, make sure he gets a command under control, then thrust him back in the closer role a little bit later in the season.
Very good, man. You are hitting the nail on the head with both the insight and the 60 seconds or less thing. Final Closky on the clock question. Oh my God. I try to say that 5 times fast.
It's tough.
That is tough. It is difficult. Like closing games, evidently. Which of the injured players expected around April, May do the Rays need back the most? So taking Rasmussen out of the equation and McClanahan out of the equation, which of the guys who have a timeline return of April, May do they need back most on the team?
Josh Lowe. That's I think that A, he's the lefty they need. B, this is a guy who hits homers, steals bases, good defensive player. Arguably, he's one of your top 3 hitters on this lineup entering the season. So getting him back in this lineup where they can really fortify the middle or maybe even slide him into 2 and move Randy down, it gives him a lot more flexibility. It gives him better defense out there. So Josh is really my one. especially coming off the season that he had last year. And I don't think it's particularly close compared to who's going to come back for this team in the near future. If we're talking about the entire season, we can have a different discussion, but Josh Lowe was the pick.
All right. Very good. Awesome stuff, Evan. One thing, how can people find your amazing, wonderful work? And I guess they're going to be seeing you on TV a lot because you're covering for one of your fellow sportscasters here.
Yeah. I mean, again, 10 Tampa Bay, you can always see me Monday through Friday, unless I'm taking a breather, which hasn't happened recently. But 10tampabay.com. The Lightning are beginning their postseason on Sunday, which is going to be a heck of a time. So I'm going to be bouncing around covering that series. And then also you can follow me at Closky, WTSP on the X. I'll respond to 99% of you as long as you're nice. And then also you can find me on Instagram at Closky. But yeah, I mean, between NFL draft coming up next week, the Bolts Breakaway Show, which you can find on our YouTube page, and the Rays, I mean, we're always stacked here.
All right, who do the Bucks need to take with their first pick?
Probably, I mean, they really need to get an edge rusher if there's one that's good enough that falls that far. Otherwise, they might have to attack on the interior defense or get an interior offensive lineman. But big picture, they gotta address the trenches.
So Michael Penix will not be a Buccaneer, is what you're telling me.
Unless he drops to the second round and they get a little sprightly. But I don't foresee Penix coming back to Tampa Bay, back home, just based on needs and where he's projected. I think that the Buccaneers at this point, after giving Baker that contract, they're better suited to fulfill some other roles.
Can you give me a name, somebody that the Bucks need to draft or pick up?
Latu out of UCLA, that would be my number one. If he's there, close to 20, pick him because they need a dude who can sack the quarterback like desperately. They will not be a Super Bowl contender without it. So that's my number one on my list. And other than that, I think there's ways to still make this team pretty strong, but that's my guy.
Yeah, go back to the Bucks' first Super Bowl. Defense wins championships. There we go. All right. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you